Welcome to the Death to the Org Chart podcast with Jeffrey DeMure, your guide to entrepreneurial freedom. On today's episode, we will be looking at how to use the Q-Cubed Quad Mod. We recommend that you watch this episode since Jeff will be at the whiteboard. Thanks for joining us, and we hope you enjoy the conversation.
So let me get to the Q-Cubed Quad Mod. It starts like this. This represents this hemisphere that is the front stage for your business. So the front stage has its other side that nobody ever sees back here. And this is, you ready for it? This is the backstage. This is what the public sees. The public sees the front stage. There's two parts to the front stage. The M is the marketing quadrant, and the D is the design quadrant. The front stage is where value is created in an organization. This is everything that the public will see. This is how you show up. If you have uniforms, it's how everyone is dressed when they interface with the public. This is your collateral materials, your website, all the things that go into the look of your organization. And in this post-pandemic period, this becomes really important because a lot of this is going to be virtual. It's going to be how your collateral materials get sent out electronically, because we're not going to be dealing with the physical essence of what we maybe used to do before. A really good example is real estate agents. They used to be, a lot of them wore gold jackets or different colored jackets, and they would be out there and they would be representing their organization by a certain way that they look. They would hand certain collateral materials to the public when they were there. A lot of that's gone away for real estate agents now, and they've needed to develop a totally different way on how they market and how they design. Design means the things that you show up with, right? The things that you will deliver to your client, your customer, or the stakeholder for which your business exists, right? So that's a real quick snapshot on what the front stage is. The backstage also has two quadrants. And that's operations, and the P is production. You actually have to produce something and deliver something at the end of the day. So let me talk about the value of the front stage and the backstage a little bit before I get into the four quadrants. So the Q-Cubed quad is for quadrants. Q-Cubed quad for quadrant, mod for the model. So we have a front stage. As I mentioned before, that's where we interface with the public. That's where value is created. Then we have the backstage. That's operations and production. In operations, we have things like human resources, insurance, accounts payable, accounts receivable, all the things that go into our business that make it a business, right? The tax payment system that we have, our insurance providers, our certifications that we need to stay in business, all the things that the public will not pay you an extra penny for. They expect you to do that, and they expect you to do it really well. It's taken for granted, right? So then we have production. In our organization, this is where we do construction documents. This is where we have a whole team of people that those on the front stage rarely, if ever, see. So this is where we produce the documentation that goes into how a building gets built, right? The engineering and the code requirements and all the things that a builder will need from a document standpoint in order to see how to build that building. So the backstage, you might ask yourself, and I have been most of my life very much of a front stage oriented entrepreneur. It's where I spent most of my time interfacing with people, marketing, talking about the designs that we've created to be able to show them, promoting our business, and just sort of being out there in the public. And I got to be honest with you, I sort of took that hemisphere, this backstage hemisphere, for granted. And then we made a change in my organization about 4 years ago, and the person that was overseeing the backstage quadrant left the organization. It was a great benefit ultimately to our organization, because what it forced me to do was to get involved in some areas that I had delegated to someone else, and I expected that they were going to be done and done well. They were done. The done well part, not so much. So what looked like a tough transition from the person that was overseeing that, then it sort of fell on my shoulders. I didn't have to do the work, but I had to be responsible for seeing that the work got done well. The first area that I focused on was this area right here, was operations. And let me tell you what the value is of someone that's on the front stage like I was most of my professional career, is that you have got to be able to trust what's going on in operations and production if you're on the front stage. So what the backstage represents, what it brings to the front stage and the people that are on the front stage, is confidence. When you're out there talking to a prospect, when you're out there giving a deadline to a client, you've got to have confidence of knowing that your team is behind you, that they can live up to the promises that you make. Now, ideally, you've communicated, and these are not hard and fast lines, right? These are just areas that we understand represent a practice area within our organization. But there needs to be very, very good communication between all these quadrants in order to have an effective model within the organization. So this confidence that's provided from the backstage is tremendously important. When you're out there, as I have been in times in my career, and I'm talking about a new initiative, or I'm giving a speech, and I've just gotten off the phone with the person that runs the backstage quadrant, and they bring up an issue and it completely erodes my confidence. Can I get through that prospect conversation? Can I get through that speech? Well, yeah, because we have, as leaders and entrepreneurs, emotional intelligence, but we have to dig really, really deep in order to get at that. And so it's really tough. And trying to sustain that for an extended period is really, really demanding. And it's not something that I wanted to do, and I don't think it's something that you want to do either. So making sure that you've got this harmony, this model it's organic and it's malleable. On any given day, as an entrepreneur, using this model, you'll be able to say, oh my gosh, our focus is way production heavy this month, this week, this quarter, right? And we have the activities that we need to have happen in the marketing quadrant aren't happening there. And the reason we've been able to do that is because we have some processes in the operations quadrant. Some of them that I work with our financial director every week. I look at accounts payable, accounts receivable. I look at the work in progress. I look at what we're going to bill for the month, the quarter, how on track we are for the budget for the year. And so all these things will identify where we need to emphasize our focus a little bit more. I'm like, wow, it doesn't look real good in the fourth quarter of this year, and we need to really bolster our marketing efforts. Otherwise, we're not going to go into the new year with the backlog of work that we need to have. A lot of this stuff I used to do basically on the back of a napkin, right? But you've got people in your organization that can put together these spreadsheets fairly easily if you ask them. If you don't have people like that in your organization, if your organization is still fairly small, there's bookkeepers that are out there. Ask your friends, ask your colleagues, ask your associates, right? Who can put together a couple of spreadsheets that will help you identify your KPI. This is a little bit different, a little bit deeper than QuickBooks Pro. And what I like about putting together some things that we will make part of the collateral information that is part of the program that we're developing. But what I like about it is that it personalizes it for your organization. It puts the things that you want to emphasize most top of mind so that you can quickly assess them and evaluate how you're doing on a weekly, monthly, quarterly, annual basis. One of the things that you're going to be talking about as we go into the post-pandemic phase is how do you set up projections? How do you establish how much business it is that you're going to have? And, you know, as someone that has spent, as I said, most of their career here and here, it's what you want to be able to do as a leader is you want to be able to challenge people to meet a new goal. But we've also got these new realities that we're dealing with. And so what is the missing ingredient in all of that? That's where your vision comes in. So as we go through this post-pandemic period, I've talked before about mining the intellectual collateral and creative collateral that you have in your organization and with the relationships that you have. If you're not planning a end of year or end of pandemic retreat, right? A focused session to evaluate where you've been, where you are, and where you want to go, then you need to do that. That's where the essence of your value proposition will exist. And this will be the stepping stone for all future success. You will look back on this period and you will say, I'm so glad we did that because that was the foundation for the things that we are doing now in 2021, 22, and 23. That's how important these things are right now. So, equipped with this model of being able to quickly look at front stage, backstage, marketing, design, production, and operations, this will be the framework that you can use in order to regularly evaluate how well you're doing.
Thank you for joining us for the Death to the Org Chart podcast with Jeffrey DeMure. Be sure to subscribe on Facebook, iTunes, YouTube, and anywhere you listen to podcasts. To get more information about Jeff or to order your copy of the book, Death to the Org Chart, go to dttoc.com. Go create the freedom you were meant for.